Why was no one listening to her? The briefing table was crowded with voices, hands pointing at maps, radios buzzing with interference. But when she spoke, the room seemed to lean away as if her presence was an echo, not a voice. She sat straighter, pressing her boots against the concrete floor, trying to hold her ground. The mud from last night's march still clung to the leather, drying in streaks. No one noticed, or maybe they chose not to. The commander's finger tapped the table. "We have one shot at this." His tone was final. Decisions had been made. Eyes scanned the room, but none fell on her. She could have stayed silent. She could have let their plan roll forward, neat and flawed. Instead, she cleared her throat. "There's a blind sector at Checkpoint 4, she said quietly. "The drones missed it. If you go in the way you're suggesting, you'll be exposed." A silence, brief, tense. Some faces flicked toward her, only half listening. One man smirked as if she were exaggerating. Another shuffled papers, uninterested. Only the youngest soldier, sitting near the edge of the table, tilted his head. He looked at her not with doubt, but with curiosity, as if he wanted to believe she saw something they didn't. The commander exhaled, not quite annoyed, but unconvinced. "Noted," he said, then returned to the thicker lines of the plan. Her words slipped away, drowned beneath the scrape of chairs and the low murmur of men who had already decided what bravery looked like. She sat in that fatting silence, something tightening in her chest. She had learned long ago how to live with being unseen, but tonight, unseen could mean dead. She looked down at her notebook. Small, cramped handwriting filled the page, calculations, sketches of the terrain, notes on wind direction. She had walked the ground herself. She knew its breathing. Still, she closed the notebook slowly, quietly, the way someone shuts away a truth that no one is ready to hear. But hours later, the night pressed heavy against the base. Rain tapped the tin roofs, slow, steady, patient. The others slept in scattered bunks, their gear piled close, rifles leaned like restless shadows against the walls. She sat alone at the edge of the barracks, her rifle across her knees, cleaning cloth in hand, movements precise, ritualistic. The rain masked the sound of her work, metal on cloth, a soft click of parts aligning. Every stroke was a rhythm she had learned before she ever carried this weapon into combat. Back when the world was quieter, back when someone else had taught her, someone she never spoke of here. She paused, staring at the barrel. A whisper of memory surfaced, a porch, a calm evening, the steady voice of her father as he guided her hands. "It's not the shot that matters," he had said. "It's the patience before it, the dignity you carry after it." She blinked the thought away, returning to the rain. The others would never understand why she stayed awake, why she watched the night as if it held secrets. Because it did. She had noticed something the others hadn't. A shadow in the pattern of enemy patrols. A gap in their reports that felt less like oversight and more like a door left half open. She wanted to tell them. She almost rose to wake the commander. But then she stopped, hearing again the silence at the table, the way her voice had been brushed aside. Not tonight, she thought, not yet. The rain deepened. A distant rumble of thunder crawled across the horizon. She leaned back against the cold wall, her rifle steady in her lap. Sleep tugged at her edges, but she resisted. It was never sleep she feared. It was waking up to regret. But dawn broke gray, with mud rising under every boot. She marched with the squad, the world heavy with mist. The ground sucked at their steps, as if the earth itself wanted to hold them back. She said nothing, just walked, eyes scanning the ridgelines, listening for the silence between the wind. The others laughed in bursts, their voices carrying into the fog. Nervous laughter, the kind that masks fear. Beside her, the youngest soldier, the same one who had looked at her during the briefing, stumbled slightly, then caught himself. He gave her a sheepish glance. "First march?" she asked quietly. He nodded, embarrassed. She softened just slightly. "Don't fight the mud, flow with it, think of it as a tide." He blinked at her, surprised by her tone. Then he nodded again, more firmly this time. It wasn't much, but sometimes even a small thread of belief kept a soldier upright. They trudged on. The fog thinned, revealing the broken skeletons of buildings ahead. Their target zone. Silent windows stared back at them, black eyes empty, watching. The commander raised his fist. The squad slowed, scanning, rifles lifted. The world shrank into heartbeats and shallow breaths. She moved to cover, pressing into the shadow of a wall. Her rifle settled against her shoulder, her eye narrowing against the scope. The silence here was wrong, too perfect. No stray dogs, no wind through shattered glass, just stillness layered and heavy. Her finger rested near the trigger. Her breath slowed. She searched every line of sight. Then she saw it. Barely a flicker, a reflection where no sunlight should have been, the glint of glass high hidden. Her throat tightened. She knew what it was. She lowered her voice, sharp but controlled. "Sniper, third floor, east window." The squad froze. The commander turned, squinting. He saw nothing. "Are you sure?" he asked. "Yes." The pause stretched. She could feel it, the weight of being doubted again. But then the shot cracked. It split the silence, a sharp scream of metal through air. The round buried itself inches from the youngest soldier's head, shattering brick. He stumbled back, eyes wide, breath stolen. No more doubt. The squad dropped, scrambling for cover. Shouts echoed, commands barked. She didn't move, didn't flinch, her scope locked on the glint, her breath stilled. Her father's words returned, patience before the shot. She exhaled. The rifle spoke once. The glint vanished. A body slumped backward, lost in shadows. Silence returned, heavier now, more fragile. The commander's eyes snapped to her. Something in his face had shifted, not gratitude, not yet, but a fracture in the wall of dismissal. She lowered her rifle slowly, the echo of the shot still pulsing in her ears. The youngest soldier looked at her, pale but alive. His lips moved soundlessly, then found the words, "Thank you." She gave no reply, just a small nod. The mud clung to her boots, sucking at each step as they moved forward again. But inside something else rose, not pride, not triumph, just a steady, quiet dignity. Because she knew this was only the beginning. And there was something she hadn't told them, not yet. Why did her hands still shake? Not much, barely enough to see, but enough that she noticed it as she tightened the sling of her rifle, following the squad deeper into the ruins. The shot she had taken, the one that saved the boy, still echoed in her ears. She had fired 1,000 rounds before, on ranges, in training, in places where life and death balanced on a trigger. But this one lingered, not because of who she hit, because of who she almost lost. The youngest soldier walked ahead of her now, his steps uneven, as if the bullet that had kissed the brick beside him had also scraped his soul. He carried his rifle too high, too tight. His breath came fast, even in silence. She watched him. She remembered her own first time under fire. The way fear settled in bones, not skin. How it took years to shake it out, and for some, it never left. But she said nothing. Sometimes silence was the only kindness. The commander signaled the squad to halt. His face was calm, but she noticed his eyes flicked once, just once, in her direction. A small acknowledgement, a thread of trust beginning, hesitant, fragile. He pulled the team close, whispered orders. They were to sweep building by building, slow and methodical. Eyes up, no risks. She adjusted her pack, her boots sinking again into the soft earth where grass and mud had reclaimed the broken streets. Every step carried the weight of silence. Windows loomed overhead, shattered glass crunching underfoot. Somewhere distant, metal groaned in the wind. Her mind drifted, unbidden, to a question she never asked aloud. How many unseen eyes watched them now? How many rifles pressed against shoulders in darkened rooms, waiting for a mistake? The squad split, pairs assigned to sectors. She ended up with the boy. Of course. Maybe it was intentional, maybe coincidence. Either way, she saw the commander glance at them before he moved off with the others. They entered the first building, a collapsed school, chalk dust long turned to mold, desks upturned like gravestones. The smell of damp wood and rust filled the air. The boy's flashlight cut through the gloom, jittering as his hand trembled. "Steady," she whispered. He froze, embarrassed, then steadied the beam. Every shadow felt alive, every corner a question. Her rifle led her steps, barrel first, eyes tracing arcs of possible movement. And then a sound. Soft, almost nothing, but she heard it, a scrape, not rat, not wind, human. She raised her fist, halting him. His breathing spiked, sharp and audible. She moved forward slow, knees bent, boots deliberate. The sound came again, a shift of weight on broken glass. Her scope caught it first, a flicker, a figure crouched behind an overturned desk, too small, too still. Her breath held, not an enemy, not armed. A child. She lowered her rifle a fraction, eyes narrowing. Mud-caked hair, wide eyes, couldn't be older than 10. The boy behind her whispered harshly, "What do we do?" Her heart beat once heavy, then again. The rulebook was clear. Secure, question, move on. But war didn't care for rules when children were involved. She knelt slowly, lowering her weapon, her voice soft. "It's okay. We're not here to hurt you." The child didn't move, eyes wide, body trembling. She reached into her pouch, pulled out a protein bar, and slid it across the floor. The sound of the wrapper against concrete seemed louder than gunfire. The child's eyes flicked to it, hesitated. Then slowly a small hand reached out, snatched it, retreated. The boy behind her shifted uncomfortably. "We don't have time for this." She cut him a glance, sharp but quiet. "We make time." The child tore at the wrapper, teeth sinking into it with a hunger that was almost painful to watch. She studied the room. No one else. No movement. Just one abandoned soul in the wreckage of a world adults had shattered. Her chest tightened. She thought of someone else. A face she didn't let herself see often. A younger sister, lost years ago when war first touched her family. The memory pressed against her ribs like broken glass. The boy soldier shifted again. "What do we do with them?" Her throat felt dry. She almost said, "We take them, we protect them, we do the human thing." But she knew the truth. They couldn't. The mission wouldn't allow it, and dragging a child through this battlefield could mean death for all. The hardest choices were never written in manuals. She rose slowly, meeting the child's eyes one last time. She whispered, almost too softly for the boy to hear, "Stay hidden. Don't move until it's quiet again." The child didn't answer, just chewed, eyes never blinking. She turned, motioning the boy to move on. He hesitated, looking back, then followed her. As they stepped out into the light, he asked, "Do you think they'll make it?" Her silence was long, heavy. Then she said, "I don't know, but I know we gave them a chance." The boy didn't reply. His shoulders were tense, but in his eyes she saw a seed planted. A reminder that this war wasn't just maps and orders. It was faces, lives, choices that left scars long after the fighting ended. The squad regrouped hours later outside what remained of the town square. No casualties, no enemies captured, just empty buildings, burned-out vehicles, and silence. The commander scanned each face. Nothing. Heads shook, reports mumbled. Her eyes lingered on a tower across the square. Antennas broken, windows shattered. Something about it gnawed at her. Too intact, too quiet. She raised her voice carefully. "That tower, we should clear it." The commander frowned. "Waste of time." "It isn't," she said firmly. The pause stretched. He studied her, weighing whether to dismiss her again. Then finally he nodded. "Fine, you lead it." The squad shifted, surprised. But she said nothing, only adjusted her rifle and started forward. The mud pulled at her boots, heavy but grounding. Her spirit rose with each step, not with pride, but with the quiet certainty that she was finally being heard. They reached the base of the tower. The door hung open, rusted hinges groaning. Inside, darkness, stale air, the spiral of stairs climbing into shadow. She moved first. Each step creaked under her weight. The squad followed, boots echoing in rhythm, breaths controlled. Halfway up, a sound froze them, a faint click, metal against metal. Her blood ran cold. Tripwire. She saw it in the beam of her flashlight, a thin line stretched across the stairwell, barely visible, but deadly. She lifted her hand sharply. Everyone stopped. The boy almost gasped, clapping a hand over his mouth too late. Her mind raced. If one was here, more would be above. The tower wasn't abandoned, it was bait. She crouched, studying the line. Simple, crude, but effective. She traced it to a grenade taped to the underside of the railing. Her breath steadied. Carefully, with surgeon's patience, she clipped the wire with a multi-tool. The grenade stayed silent. She looked up the stairs. Shadows stretched higher, deeper, waiting. The commander whispered, "We pull back." But she shook her head. No, if they've wired this place, they're hiding something. Again, that silence, that pause, and then reluctantly the commander gave a nod. They climbed. Each step was slower, more careful. Every breath felt like borrowed time. And at the top, the answer revealed itself. A room full of equipment, radios, maps, transmission gear still humming faintly. Not abandoned, active. Her chest tightened. This wasn't just a lookout. It was a nerve point. A place the enemy used to direct movements, maybe even lure squads like theirs into traps. She moved to the maps, scanning quickly. Her eyes froze on one detail. A red circle, drawn not around their position but around their base. Her stomach dropped. They weren't the hunters, they were the hunted. She turned sharply to the commander, voice low, urgent. "We need to move, now." The storm was coming, and she was the only one who had seen the first flash of lightning. Why hadn't anyone noticed before? The maps, the wires, the faint hum of transmissions, all of it sat in that dusty tower, waiting like a snare. The red circle around their base burned into her mind. A warning, a promise. She folded the map, slid it into her vest. The commander's face was grim, but his voice steady. "We pull the intel, destroy the rest, move out." "Too late for that," she whispered. His eyes narrowed. "Explain." She turned, scanning the radios. The faint flicker of a signal light pulsed steady, rhythmic, not random, active. "They know we're here," she said. "They've been watching." A silence, then the first sound of engines, distant, approaching. The squad stiffened, rifles raised instinctively. The commander's jaw tightened. "Positions," he barked. But she knew, she felt it in her bones. They weren't positioned to fight, they were positioned to die. Her boots carried her to the window. Through the cracked glass, she saw the fog thinning, revealing movement in the streets below. Figures, trucks, too many. Her throat closed. The boy at her side whispered, voice trembling, "How many?" She didn't answer, she couldn't. The commander's hand gripped her shoulder. "Options." For the first time since the mission began, the weight shifted. He was asking her. Her mind raced. Every choice meant blood. Stay and they'd be surrounded. Run and they'd be hunted. Radio for help and risk exposing the base even faster. But there was something else. She saw it on the map before she folded it away. A ridge to the north, narrow, steep, dangerous, but hidden. If they moved fast enough, they could slip away before the net closed. She turned to the squad, her voice low but firm. "North Ridge, it's our only chance." The commander studied her, then nodded once. "Move." The squad flowed into motion, boots pounding the stairs, gear clattering softly in the suffocating quiet. She brought up the rear, her rifle ready, her ears tuned to every creak of the old tower. When they burst into the street, the air hit like ice. Fog curled low, muffling shapes, but the sound of engines was louder now. closer. Go, she urged, pushing the boy forward, her eyes never leaving the shadows. They moved, fast, silent, threading through the skeleton of the town. Mud sucked at their boots, slowing them. Every breath felt stolen. Then a shout, foreign words sharp, commanding. She froze. The others dropped to cover. Figures emerged from the fog, rifles ready, spreading like water finding cracks. Her pulse hammered. The commander signaled. Flank left, break contact, keep moving. But she knew the boy wouldn't make it. His breaths came ragged, his eyes wide with panic. He was too green, too raw. Her decision came in an instant. She broke from cover, rifle raised. One sharp crack, a figure fell. Another shot, the second dropped. She moved with precision, not fury, every round controlled, measured. The squad seized the opening, surging forward. The boy stumbled after them, pulled by another soldier's grip. She lingered just long enough to buy space, then pivoted, sprinting after them, boots tearing through mud. Bullets snapped past, biting the walls, the ground, the air. Her lungs burned, her heart screamed, but she didn't stop. They reached the northern edge of town, the ridge looming ahead. A wall of stone and earth, jagged and steep, like the spine of some ancient beast. The commander glanced at her. You said there was a path. She nodded, pointing, there. A narrow trail carved into the slope, barely wide enough for one man at a time. Dangerous, but hidden. The squad moved, climbing in silence, boots scraping against loose rock. Every sound felt amplified, the fall of a pebble, the clink of metal. Halfway up, the boy slipped. His boot lost purchase, his body tilted dangerously toward the drop. She was closest. She dropped her rifle, lunged, caught his strap. The weight pulled her forward, pain shooting through her shoulder. For a breathless second, she thought they'd both fall. But she dug her boots deep, muscles straining, pulling him back onto the path. His chest heaved, eyes wide with terror. She didn't speak. She just shoved him upward, back into the line. By the time they reached the ridge's crest, her body was trembling with exhaustion. But below, the town vanished into fog again. Their pursuers swarmed, but the squad was gone. Hidden alive. For now. They moved deeper into the ridge, the forest pressing close. Branches clawed at uniforms, roots threatened to trip every step. But the cover was thick, and for the first time since dawn, silence felt like safety. The squad collapsed into a shallow ravine, catching breaths, faces pale. The commander scanned them. We regroup here, radio silence until further notice. She sat apart, back against a tree, rifle across her knees. Her hands still shook, not from fear, from the echo of choices. The boy sat near her, silent, staring at his boots. Finally, he whispered, "You could have let me fall." Her throat tightened. She looked at him, young, raw, eyes that hadn't yet learned how to carry death. "You'll learn," she said softly. "We don't leave people behind." He swallowed, nodding, but his gaze lingered on her, searching, maybe for strength, maybe for answers she didn't have. She looked away, her eyes finding the tree line. Shadows stretched long in the fading light, and with them came memories she couldn't outrun. Her sister's face. She had been younger than this boy. Fragile, hopeful, taken by a war that no one claimed, lost in a silence that no one broke. Her boots sank in mud that day, too. She remembered running through streets, screaming her sister's name. She remembered the emptiness when no voice answered. It was the moment she stopped being just a daughter, just a sister. It was the moment she became something else, something forged in loss, driven by the weight of ghosts. And now here, another young life sat beside her, alive for now, because she refused to let the past repeat. The forest whispered around them, night crept close. The commander moved to her side, his voice low. "You were right about the tower." She didn't answer. He waited, then added, "You saved us today." Her eyes stayed on the trees. "Not all of us, not yet." He studied her but didn't push, just nodded once, then moved away. She exhaled slowly, the weight pressing harder. She had kept them alive, yes, but the red circle on the map burned in her memory. Their base was in danger. The people they left behind were in danger. She hadn't told them, not yet. Because if she did, the squad would fracture. Orders would clash with instincts. Trust would shatter before it even formed. So she held it inside, carried it alone. For now, the night deepened, crickets called, the squad drifted into uneasy sleep. She stayed awake, rifle in hand, eyes open. Waiting, watching, wondering if silence would keep them safe or if it was already too late. Why was the forest so quiet? Not peaceful quiet, not the kind that lets a soldier rest. This was the kind that pressed against skin, made every twig snap feel like a bullet waiting to fire. She sat in the shallow ravine, eyes on the tree line, ears tuned for the smallest sound. The others slept in shifts. The boy had drifted into uneasy dreams, his head lolling against his pack. Even the commander closed his eyes briefly, though his rifle never left his side. But she didn't sleep. Couldn't. Not with the map folded against her chest, its red circle burning through the fabric like an ember. She replayed it again and again, the way the ink curved around their base. Not a mark of interest, a target. And if the enemy knew their location, then time wasn't on their side. Every second here meant those they'd left behind were one step closer to an attack they couldn't see coming. Her fingers clenched the stock of her rifle. She should tell the commander. She should put the truth in front of him and let him decide. But she hesitated. Would he believe her? Or would he see only defiance, a soldier stepping out of line? Trust was thin. One wrong word could shatter it completely. A sound pulled her from thought. Soft, too soft, not natural. She lifted her hand, a silent signal. The squad stirred, rifles rising, breaths held. The forest exhaled, a branch cracked, then another. Shadows moved. Figures emerged through the trees, not soldiers, not yet, scouts, searching, sweeping. The commander hissed, "Hold fire." She steadied her scope, 2, no 3, moving slow, methodical, eyes scanning the undergrowth, too close. The boy shifted beside her, finger tightening on the trigger. His breathing spiked. She leaned close, her whisper sharp but steady. "Not yet, wait." The figures moved closer, 10 paces, 5. Her heart hammered. One wrong breath and the forest would erupt. The nearest scout paused, tilting his head as if listening. She held her breath. The world narrowed to silence. Then a bird burst from the undergrowth, wings flapping madly. The scout flinched, muttered something under his breath and moved on. The others followed, slipping deeper into the trees. Only when the sound of their footsteps faded did the squad exhale. The boy looked at her, sweat beading on his forehead. "How did you know?" She didn't answer, not fully, just said softly, "Sometimes the forest tells you what not to do." The commander's eyes met hers, a flicker, respect grudging but real. Still, she felt the weight of what she hadn't said pressing harder. If the enemy had scouts this close, then the circle on that map wasn't theory. It was already in motion. They moved at dawn, slipping through the ridge toward friendlier ground. Every step was slow, deliberate. The forest seemed alive with echoes, footsteps they couldn't place, whispers they couldn't trace. By mid-morning they reached a stream. The water was cold, fast, cutting through the forest like glass. They refilled canteens, washed mud from boots, faces, hands. The boy crouched near her, splashing his face. His voice was low. "You ever get used to it?" She glanced at him. What? The fear, the not knowing, every sound feeling like the last thing you'll hear. Her gaze softened, though her tone stayed quiet, steady. "No, you don't get used to it. You just learn to carry it." He nodded slowly as if trying to accept that answer, but his eyes told her he wasn't ready. Not yet. She looked at him longer than she meant to. Saw not just a soldier but someone's son, someone's brother, a reminder of who she once was before war stole names and left only roles. Her chest tightened. She turned away, dipping her hands into the cold stream. The water bit at her skin, grounding her. When she stood, the commander was waiting, his expression unreadable. "Walk with me," he said. They moved a few paces upriver, out of earshot. The forest wrapped around them like a secret. He stopped, folding his arms. "You've seen things the rest of us haven't. Twice now, you've saved us from walking into traps. I won't ignore that." She said nothing. But he continued, "I need to know how. You're not guessing, you're not lucky. So what aren't you telling me?" Her chest tightened. The map burned against her vest. She could lie, say nothing, protect herself. Or she could tell him, risk everything. Her lips parted, then closed again. The words stuck. "I've walked this ground before," she said finally, not quite lying, not quite truth. "I see patterns." The commander studied her, his eyes narrowing. Then slowly he nodded. "Patterns keep us alive, but secrets," his voice dropped lower, "secrets get people killed." He turned and walked back toward the squad, leaving her standing by the stream. She clenched her fists, nails biting her palms. He knew, maybe not the whole truth, but enough. She couldn't hold it much longer. By nightfall, they reached an abandoned farmhouse on the forest's edge. Broken roof, sagging beams, but walls enough to shelter them. They settled inside, posting watches, lighting no fires. The air smelled of rot and damp wood. She sat in a corner, rifle across her lap, staring at the dark rafters above. The boy sat nearby, fiddling with a worn photograph pulled from his pocket. She caught a glimpse, a family, smiling. His hands trembled as he folded it back carefully, like something fragile that might break if touched too roughly. He noticed her watching. "It's my sister," he said quietly. She's younger, still in school." His voice cracked just slightly. "I told her I'd be back before her birthday." Her throat tightened. She thought of her own sister, the promise she never kept, the birthday that came and went with silence. She wanted to tell him, wanted to say, "Hold on to that, let it keep you alive." But the words stuck in her chest, heavy, unspoken. Instead, she just said softly, "Don't lose it." He nodded, clutching the photo tighter. The farmhouse creaked. Wind slipped through broken boards. She leaned back against the wall, closing her eyes just for a moment. And then the sound. A faint click, metal shifting. Her eyes snapped open. She froze. Tripwire. Her breath caught. She scanned the room quickly. There, near the far doorway, almost invisible in the shadows, a wire stretched low, leading to a small device buried under debris. Her chest clenched. They had walked into it again. She rose slowly, moving toward it, her steps deliberate. Her fingers reached for the wire, steady, careful. The commander's voice cut through the dark. "What is it?" "Trap," she whispered. "We're not alone." As if summoned by her words, the first shot shattered the silence. Glass exploded, wood splintered, the farmhouse erupted with fire. The squad dropped, returning fire blindly into the night. Shouts filled the air. The sound of boots pounding against the earth grew closer. She dove for cover, her rifle snapping to her shoulder, firing controlled bursts into the dark. Figures fell, but more kept coming. The boy screamed, clutching his arm. Blood seeped between his fingers. She crawled to him, dragging him behind cover, her body shielding his. His eyes were wide, panicked but alive. Her breath was ragged. The commander's voice roared commands, but the noise drowned everything. The farmhouse burned with chaos. And in the firelight she felt it, the truth pressing harder. This wasn't random, this wasn't chance. The enemy knew every step they would take. Because someone had given them the map. And she was the only one who had seen it. Smoke clung to her lungs. The farmhouse was no longer shelter. It was a coffin catching fire around them. Bullets tore through splintered walls. Sparks leapt from shattered beams. The boy gasped behind her, blood soaking through the cloth she had tied around his arm. "Stay low," she ordered, her voice cutting through the roar. "Don't move unless I drag you." His eyes were wide, desperate. "They know we're here. How do they know?" She silenced him with a look. A soldier couldn't think about betrayal in the middle of a firefight. Survival first, questions later. The commander's voice boomed across the chaos. "Left flank, suppression fire." He leaned through a gap in the wall, muzzle flashing in steady bursts. Even under fire, his posture was stone, immovable. But stone could crack, and if he fell, everything fell with him. She scanned the shadows through the rising smoke. Figures swarmed outside, their movements precise, relentless. This wasn't a raid, it was an execution. Her chest tightened. The map, it was happening exactly as marked. "Cover me," she growled, shoving the boy's rifle into his good hand. "One burst if you see them close. Don't waste it." He nodded, pale but determined. She darted toward the far wall, pressing herself against the charred boards. The trap's wire still glinted faintly where she had spotted it earlier. Whoever said it wanted them pinned, then burned alive. Not tonight. She knelt low, pulled her knife, and sliced the wire clean. The click of the release mechanism echoed under the floorboards. A beat later, the charge went off, not inside but outside the farmhouse, tearing through the attackers clustered near the door. Screams followed. The squad roared with renewed fire, pouring lead through the gaps. For a heartbeat, momentum shifted. The commander glanced her way. A nod, approval in the middle of fire. But the enemy didn't break. More came, always more. The farmhouse wouldn't hold much longer. "We fall back," the commander barked, "through the rear." She grabbed the boy, hauling him to his feet, half carrying his weight as the squad pushed toward the crumbling back wall. The enemy fire hammered harder, chewing through planks, spitting splinters. One soldier went down, chest collapsing under a burst. Another screamed, clutching a ruined leg. The commander didn't stop, couldn't, his hand shoved her shoulder. "Move." They burst into the night, swallowed by cold air and moonlight. The forest loomed, black and endless. Gunfire chased them, sparks lighting the trees. The farmhouse burned behind them, flames clawing at the sky like a beacon. And still the enemy followed. They ran until lungs bled. Branches whipped faces, boots pounded mud. The boy stumbled more than once, but she dragged him upright each time, her grip iron. Finally, when the gunfire dulled to distant echoes, the commander raised his fist. "Halt." The squad collapsed into cover beneath a ridge, gasping. Smoke drifted faintly across the treetops behind them. For a long time, no one spoke, only breath in the far-off crackle of fire. The boy leaned against her, shaking, his wound bleeding again. She pressed her hand hard against the cloth, whispering steady words. "Stay with me. You're not done yet." His lips trembled, but he nodded. Then the commander's voice cut the silence, hard, cold. "Someone gave us up." Every head turned. The words hung heavier than any bullet. The commander's eyes swept the group, sharp, cutting. That trap wasn't chance. That ambush wasn't chance. They knew every step, and someone made sure of it. Murmurs rose. Uneasy glances darted between soldiers. Her pulse pounded. This was it. The moment the circle on the map became a noose around her neck. She felt the weight of the folded paper still pressed against her chest. The evidence, the truth. But if she showed it now, what would they see? A warning she had kept hidden, or proof she had been the one to lead them into fire? Her throat closed. The commander's eyes locked on her, too long, too sharp. "You saw the trap first," he said. "Not accusation yet, but close. How?" The squad stared, faces tense, hungry for someone to blame. Her hand clenched against her rifle. Her mouth went dry. She forced her voice steady. "Because I was looking, because I don't trust the quiet." A pause, silence stretched thin. Finally the commander nodded once slowly. Then you'll keep looking, because until I know who led them to us, nobody is clean. The squad shifted uncomfortably. Suspicion didn't fade. It never would, not fully. She sat back against the ridge, her jaw tight, the boy's blood still warm on her hands. Secrets, lies, and a fire that refused to burn out. Dawn crawled over the horizon, weak and gray. They moved again, slower now, wounded, dragging feet, eyes hollow from smoke and sleeplessness. Every step deeper into the forest felt like walking through glass. The boy leaned heavily against her side. His fever was rising, skin clammy, eyes glassy. Infection would come fast if they didn't find help. But there was no help, not out here, not while hunted. She tore strips from her own sleeve, pressing them tighter against his wound. He winced but didn't cry out. "You're stubborn," she muttered, more to herself than to him. "Good, stay that way." The commander walked ahead, silent, his shoulders carrying more than just his pack. She could see it now, the cracks forming, doubt creeping into even him. And in the spaces between gunfire and silence, she thought of the map, thought of the circle burning into her chest, thought of how easily she could end the questions by showing it. But to reveal, it was to condemn herself. And maybe worse, it was to reveal just how deeply the enemy already had their claws in. By midday, they reached a clearing. A ruined supply cache sat half buried in mud, crates shattered, contents looted long ago. Still, it offered cover, shelter enough to stop and breathe. The squad settled. Some slumped into the dirt, others scavenged for scraps. She tended the boy, wiping sweat from his forehead, forcing a trickle of water past his cracked lips. His eyes fluttered, weak. "You'll make it," she whispered, though she wasn't sure if he heard. The commander crouched nearby, watching. For a long time he said nothing. Then low, almost too low to hear, "If you know something, now is the time." Her chest clenched. He knew, maybe not the details, but enough. Her hand hovered over her vest, over the folded paper. The weight of it was unbearable. She wanted to hand it over, wanted to throw the truth into the dirt and let him carry it instead. But the boy's shallow breathing filled her ears. The squad's haunted eyes flickered at the edges of her vision. If she gave the commander the map, suspicion would turn, trust would shatter, maybe even the squad itself. She swallowed hard, forcing the words back. "Not yet." "Patterns," she said again, voice steady, eyes on the boy. "That's all I have." The commander's gaze lingered, searching, testing. Finally he stood, shoulders heavy. "Then pray your patterns hold." He walked away, leaving her in silence. Her hand pressed against her chest, feeling the paper burn like fire against her skin. She closed her eyes just for a moment. And in the dark behind them, the circle on the map glowed brighter. Tighter. Closer. The clearing turned colder as night fell, though the air wasn't cold. She sat with her back against a broken crate, rifle across her lap, the boy's shallow breaths drifting like ghosts beside her. His fever was worse. Every time his chest rose, she feared it wouldn't fall again. Around the fireless camp, silence weighed heavier than hunger. Soldiers sat in small clusters, whispering low, their eyes flicking like knives toward one another. Trust had been cut apart. And no one said it out loud, but everyone knew. There was a traitor among them. The commander hadn't spoken in hours. He crouched on a log near the edge of the clearing, sharpening his knife in slow, measured strokes. The sound scraped through the night, metallic, steady, like a clock counting down. Her hands itched toward her chest, toward the folded paper burning there. The circle on the map hadn't lied. The ambush had been exactly where marked, and there were other marks, other places still ahead. If she spoke, if she revealed it, maybe they'd trust her. Maybe they'd see she wasn't the leak. But the moment they learned she'd kept it hidden this long, would they? Or would they turn on her as fast as wolves scenting blood? The boy stirred weakly, his voice rasped against her ear. "They don't trust you." Her breath caught, Rest, don't waste your strength. But his fevered eyes searched hers, sharp despite the haze. They look at you like I used to look at shadows. She clenched her jaw. Even wounded, even dying, the boy saw more clearly than she wished. The commander's voice cut the dark. Tomorrow we move before dawn. If they know where we are, we keep them guessing. His eyes lifted, scanning the squad. But hear this, if anyone breaks rank, if anyone moves against us, I won't hesitate. We live as one or we die as one. No middle ground. The blade in his hand glinted in fireless moonlight. The warning was for all of them, but it landed on her like a strike. Her chest tightened. She turned her eyes away, but the map still pulsed under her vest. The night dragged on. Every sound from the forest sounded like footsteps, every crack like a rifle raised. Sleep came in fragments, shallow, broken by fear. And when dawn bled through the trees, it brought no comfort, only the march. The squad moved in near silence, boots through mud, breath in clouds. The boy could barely walk now, leaning on her shoulder with every step. She felt his weight growing heavier, his body burning hotter. One of the soldiers, a wiry man with hollow cheeks, finally snapped. "Why are we dragging him? He's dead weight. He'll get us all killed." Her spine stiffened. She turned, eyes hard. "He's still breathing." The man sneered. "For now, and when he stops, what then? You going to carry his corpse too?" The squad slowed, tension rising like smoke. The commander's gaze flicked between them, cold, measuring. She forced her voice low, steady. "We don't leave him, not while he fights to stay alive." The wiry soldier spat into the mud. "Easy for you to say. Maybe that's why they know where we are. Maybe you're dragging us down on purpose." The words hit like a blade. The squad froze, eyes snapped to her. Her grip on the boy tightened. Her pulse thundered in her ears. The commander stepped forward, steel in his voice. "Enough." But the damage was done. The seed was planted. Suspicion no longer whispered, it shouted. She felt it with every glance that lingered too long, every rifle barrel that angled just slightly her way. And the worst part, she couldn't even defend herself with the truth, not without proving them right. The boy muttered weakly against her shoulder. Don't give them what they want." She looked down at him, startled. "What do you mean?" His cracked lips curved faintly. "You show them that map, they'll eat you alive." Her chest burned. Even half-conscious, he understood. He understood more than the one still standing. She kept moving, one foot, then another. The forest swallowed their silence. But inside, a storm raged. By mid-morning, rain began. Cold, relentless. It soaked through uniforms, turned soil to sucking mud. Each step felt heavier, each breath harsher. The squad's pace slowed to a crawl. Tempers frayed. And still they pressed on, deeper into terrain none of them trusted. Finally, the commander called halt beneath a stand of twisted pines. Water streamed down his face, but his eyes were fire. "We're close," he said. "Supplies, shelter, but if we're walking into another trap, it ends us." The wiry soldier spoke again, voice sharp. "Then maybe we cut loose the one slowing us down." His glance at her was not subtle. Rifles shifted in nervous hands. Her throat went dry. She felt the weight of every stare pressing down, waiting, judging. The commander's eyes narrowed. "Speak plain." The soldier did. "It's her. She finds the traps. She's the first to spot the danger, maybe because she put it there." The squad buzzed with low curses, mutters, suspicion boiling into anger. Her heart hammered. Her hand pressed unconsciously against her chest over the map. The secret, the proof. If she pulled it out now, would it save her, or damn her? The commander's gaze locked on her, piercing, unyielding. "Is that true?" Silence swallowed the forest. She felt her throat tighten. Words choked her. Her hand trembled against the paper. And then the boy, barely conscious, croaked out, "She saved me." All heads turned. His voice was thin, breaking, but it carried. "Twice, at the farmhouse. She could have left me, but she didn't. If she wanted us dead, I'd already be gone." The squad froze. The commander's stare didn't soften, but something in it shifted, a fraction. Finally he spoke. "We move now, no more words." The moment broke, but the cracks remained. They marched again, suspicion trailing like smoke. Her chest ached with the weight of the map, heavier with each step. She wanted to scream, to tear it free, to force them all to see. But the boy's words echoed, "Don't give them what they want." So she swallowed the truth once more. By dusk, the squad reached a ravine where jagged cliffs hemmed the path, a perfect choke point, a perfect place for an ambush. The commander raised his fist, halting the column. He scanned the shadows, every line of his body coiled. And her heart sank, because she knew this place. She had seen it before. On the map, the circle around it burned in her mind, brighter than fire. Her knees went weak, her breath caught. This was it, another trap, another slaughter waiting to happen. And she was the only one who knew. The commander's hand twitched toward his rifle, his voice low. "Eyes up, something's wrong." The squad fanned out, scanning the ravine, tension spiking like electricity. She could stay silent, let them stumble in blind, let the circle consume them. Or she could speak, reveal the truth, reveal the map. Her chest heaved, sweat mingled with rain on her face. The boy sagged against her, too weak to stand alone. And for the first time, she let herself imagine the end. Not dying under fire, not vanishing in mud, but standing here, accused, stripped, betrayed by the very one she had bled for. The commander turned, eyes meeting hers. "You see something." The world held its breath. Her hand hovered over her chest, over the truth. The choice pressed harder than any bullet ever could. And in that breathless silence, she realized something terrible. The trap wasn't just waiting ahead. It was already closing around her. The ravine was too quiet. Even the rain seemed to hold its breath. She crouched low, mud soaking through her knees, the boy leaning weakly against her shoulder. The rest of the squad fanned out across the narrow path, rifles raised, every eye flicking to the shadows that pressed against the cliffs. Her pulse hammered so loud she could hear it over the drip of water. She had seen this place before, not with her eyes but with the map still burning against her chest, the circle drawn there, a noose around them. And now they stood in the center of it. The commander scanned the ridges above, his body tense, his voice a sharp whisper. "Something's wrong, too quiet." The wiry soldier sneered from the rear. "Or maybe you just don't want to admit it. Maybe she already knew." Her breath caught, all eyes flicked toward her. The commander's jaw tightened. Not now. But suspicion didn't wait for permission. It thickened, crackled, poisoned the air. She felt it pressing against her ribs. The map pulsed like fire. If she told them now, if she pulled the paper free, maybe she could save them. Maybe she could prove she wasn't the one feeding the enemy. But if she did, the truth of her silence would damn her just as surely. Her hand hovered, her breath stuttered. And then a sound. The faintest click of metal against stone. Her stomach dropped. She opened her mouth to shout, but the world exploded. Gunfire ripped from the ridges above, shredding the silence. Muzzles flashed like lightning, cutting through the rain. The ravine erupted with chaos. Soldiers dove for cover, mud spraying, screams swallowed by thunder. Bullets raked the path, tearing men from their feet. The boy collapsed against her, too weak to hold himself upright. She dragged him down, covering his head with her body as stone splinters showered around them. The commander's voice roared through the storm. "Contact left, suppress, move." The squad fired back, blind and desperate, rifles spitting fire into the cliffs. The ravine turned into a furnace of lead and echoes. She pressed her face into the mud, the map burning against her chest. Every line she had seen, every circle, every mark, it was all true. And she had said nothing. Her throat tore as she screamed, "It's a trap! The ridge is theirs, pull back!" The commander's eyes snapped toward her. For a heartbeat, shock cut through the fury in his face. Then he barked, "Fall back, go, go." The squad surged, stumbling through mud, dragging the wounded. She hauled the boy across the path, bullets snapping inches overhead. The wiry soldier cursed, shoving past, his eyes blazing. You knew all along." Her chest seized. She had no breath to argue, no time to defend, only to run. The squad tumbled into the tree line at the ravine's edge, throwing themselves behind roots and rocks. Gunfire chewed the earth where they had been seconds before. But the enemy was closing, too many, too fast. The commander crouched beside her, breath ragged, eyes furious. "How did you know?" The words slammed into her harder than the bullets. She froze, her hand clenched over her chest, over the paper that had been burning her alive for days. And in that moment, she knew she had no choice left. She tore it free. The map unfolded between them, smeared with rain and blood, the ink bleeding but the circles still clear. The commander's eyes widened. His hand snatched the paper. His voice broke into a growl. "Where did you get this?" The squad crowded closer, eyes burning, suspicion twisting into something darker. She forced the words through the lump in her throat. "In the farmhouse, hidden. I didn't know who to trust, if I showed it then." "You kept this," the wiry soldier spat. "You let us walk blind." His rifle rose, trembling, barrel pointed at her. The commander shoved it down with iron force. His voice was steel. "Not now." The soldier's face twisted with rage, but the barrel lowered, shaking. The commander's eyes burned into hers. "You should have told me." Her chest heaved. "And if I had, would you have believed me?" The silence between them was heavier than the storm. Then another burst of gunfire ripped through the trees, snapping branches, forcing everyone flat. The enemy was advancing fast. The commander stuffed the map into his vest, his voice like a blade. "We move. She's with us until this is over. Then we'll have answers." Her breath stuttered. Relief and dread tangled in her chest. She wasn't dead, not yet, but the noose had only tightened. The boy groaned beside her, blood soaking through her makeshift bandages. She gripped his hand, whispering fiercely, "Stay with me, please." He blinked weakly, lips parting. "You finally told them." Her throat burned. She squeezed his hand harder. Above them, rain poured like ash. Gunfire echoed. Men screamed. And for the first time since this began, she felt not just hunted but exposed. No more secrets, no more hiding. And now the real cost would come. They fought their way deeper into the forest, every step a gamble, every breath a prayer. The commander led with grim focus, map clutched tight, his jaw set like stone. The squad followed, ragged, bloodied, eyes full of questions they didn't dare ask yet. She carried the boy, half dragging, half holding, her muscles burning, her heart tearing. Every glance at her was a knife. Every silence was louder than gunfire. The wiry soldier trailed near, muttering curses under his breath, his stare promising that once the bullets stopped, hers would begin. The boy's head lolled against her shoulder. His voice was barely a breath. "Don't let go." She pressed her cheek against his damp hair. "Never." The forest swallowed them whole, the storm chasing at their backs. And though the enemy still hunted, though death was still close, it wasn't the gunfire that haunted her. It was the way the commander's eyes had looked when he saw the map. Not just betrayed, but afraid. As if the circles marked not just traps for soldiers, but graves for all of them. That night, when the squad finally collapsed under a canopy of dripping branches, no one spoke. They sat in the dark, wet and broken, the fire in their eyes gone cold. The commander held the map in his hands, staring at it as if it might change under his gaze. The wiry soldier never stopped watching her. The boy never let go of her sleeve, his grip weak but desperate. And she, for the first time since it began, had no more walls left to hide behind. The secret was gone, the truth was out. But the weight on her chest felt heavier than ever. Because now it wasn't just about survival. It was about whether she was worth saving at all. She didn't hear the applause when the carrier touched down. She didn't feel the grip of congratulatory hands or see the eyes of men who once doubted her soften with something like respect. All she noticed was the silence between footsteps, the silence she had carried home. Her rifle was set down carefully as if it still breathed. Her boots, caked in mud, left marks across the steel floor, and in her chest an ache, not of fear, not even of pride, something heavier, something nameless. The mission had ended. The enemy was pushed back. The reports would say success. Numbers, coordinates, a line of text that someone would skim past in an office far from where the gunfire once echoed. But that wasn't the story. The story was in the face of the boy she carried out, in the whispered promise she had made when his hand trembled in hers. The story was in the squadmate who never came back, and the way his laughter still haunted her in quiet rooms. And the story was in her. People expected victory to taste like triumph. They didn't speak of the bitterness that followed, the guilt of surviving, the questions that stalked your nights. She learned to walk slowly, to breathe carefully, to hide the breaking pieces behind a soldier's straight spine. Some nights she would hear the rain against the window and remember the mud clutching at her boots, dragging her down. And she would see her own hands pulling upward anyway, lifting, carrying, refusing to sink. That was the part no one could take from her. Not medals, not ranks, not politics. Her dignity had survived where hope had collapsed. She knew the war would not end. Not truly, not for her, but wars were never just fought on battlefields. Some were carried quietly, every day in silence. And she carried hers with a grace no one could strip away. The camera would fade on her sitting alone in the dim barracks, light washing over her face, not proud, not broken, just steady, just present. A final breath, a pause, a truth. Sometimes dignity doesn't speak. It simply acts.